In this lesson, we will focus on students designated as chronically absent for multiple years. It is important to note that addressing multi-year chronic absenteeism often involves the works of your school intervention team. In some schools, this is the same team that addresses other student support needs, but in many schools, the work is distributed. As we go through the lesson, remember how you can leverage your team's strengths and align their efforts to support students at all levels. As we have shared, Attendance Works is an outstanding resource of evidence-based research, interventions, and considerations for chronic absenteeism. Attendance Works tells us that students who missed 10% of school in the prior school year should be prioritized for extra outreach and support for the current school year and the upcoming summer. A wealth of research shows that chronic absence in the prior year indicates students starting in kindergarten who are more likely to fall behind in reading, experience lower achievement in middle school, and are less likely to graduate from high school. Finally, we must keep in mind that large numbers of students chronically absent in a particular grade, student group, or school can indicate a need for intensified investments in foundational and Tier 1 supports, not just expanded early intervention. When determining the level of support that students need to address absenteeism, we look at both what's happening in the current year as well as what has happened historically in prior years. For example, a student who has had no previous history of chronic absenteeism and is not chronically absent in the current school year would continue to be supported by Tier 1 alone. It is important to note that all students at every tier, including Tiers 2 and 3, should receive the same supports provided at Tier 1. Students who have had a history of chronic absenteeism during the past 5 years, but who are not chronically absent, would still be supported with targeted level intervention to ensure that their current success continues. With this information in mind, when teams begin to analyze multi-year absenteeism data, it is important to consider the following questions. What are the reasons that students are absent, and how can we match our interventions to their needs? Have the multiple years of chronic absenteeism impacted their achievement? The answer is likely yes. And have any patterns or trends been identified when reviewing the reasons these students are absent? What investments are needed to support them? Let's take a look at a hypothetical example of a school that has undergone a root cause analysis to determine the underlying issues for students 5+ years chronically absent. Of the multi-year chronically absent students at Ocean View Elementary, 66% identify as Hispanic, 100% qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 33% are differently abled. The school identified common barriers such as family responsibilities, chronic illness, trauma, and even anxiety about transportation. Additionally, many of these students are struggling academically and behaviorally, further complicating their ability to attend school regularly. The team came together to investigate these patterns. Through root cause analysis, they identified the areas of greatest need for each student and developed intervention plans accordingly. These plans weren't just about addressing absenteeism in isolation. They were connected to broader academic and social-emotional supports to ensure that students' needs were fully met. Next, we'll look at a hypothetical secondary example. Of the multi-year chronically absent students at Federal Hill High School, 58% identify as Black or African American. 90% qualify for free or reduced lunch, and 25% are multilingual learners. Students at Federal Hill High School are required to wear uniforms or they face disciplinary consequences. The school team identified this practice as a significant barrier contributing to absenteeism because many of the students in this group do not have reliable access to laundry services. Many often choose not to come to school if it means coming in a dirty uniform or being given a detention for being out of dress code. As part of their root cause analysis, the school team also identified a lack of staff representation. The majority of faculty are white and native English speakers, which does not represent most students in this group. The school team also noted most of the students in this group have never been involved in extracurricular activities or elective courses. Furthermore, many of these students have indicated that they would rather go to work and make money, even if it means missing class. In a related issue, several students in this group do not miss entire school days, but are routinely absent for the first and/or last periods of the day to accommodate their work schedules. These students and many of their families do not consider it a big deal to come in a little late or leave a little early as long as they come to school for at least part of the day. Through this thorough root cause analysis, Federal Hill High's team developed intervention plans for each student. These plans addressed immediate barriers, such as providing access to laundry services, and long-term strategies, such as working with community partners to balance students' need to work with their need to be in school.